Imagine the following scene. A young wife tells the days to meet her husband again after a job trip, but with each call, he always hears the same excuse as his mother-in-law. "Ah, my daughter, he's here in the farm, full of chores, can't even breathe." She believed, waited, postponed her plans. Until the truth, like a sleeping volcano, erupted with devastating force, and the reaction was as fast as relentless. Good night, listening friends. I am Andre Branco, and it is with great satisfaction that I share with you another real story here on the Entrelast Almas channel. Get ready for a narrative that will mess with your emotions. Let's go. It all started when Elena met Dennis in the last year of college. He was that kind of man who can conquer with right words at the right time, a master of promises that sound like music. After a year of dating, they got married, and Elena dived headlong in her life, full of dreams. But the honeymoon is over, and with it, the illusion. The mother-in-law, Klavdia Georgievna, was one of those women who purely believes that a child is the exclusive property of her mother and her daughter-in-law. A mere passing mistake. It appeared without warning, rearranged the house as if they were owner, criticized every dish that Elena prepared and did not lose chance to unleash poisonous. "My son is used to a very homemade rubbish, not this tasteless bag." Elena swallows dry. He worked hard at an advertising agency, while Dennis did nozzles as a freelance designer. The money gave to everything, but to Klavdia, a real woman should be at home, dedicating herself only to the family. When Elena became pregnant, the mother-in-law became an oppressive shadow. He controlled every step, dictated what to eat, how to sleep, with whom he talks. Dennis should only take his shoulders. Mother just wants to help, it doesn't take it seriously. Max was born healthy, strong, and Elena finally felt a pure happiness, which was short-lived. Klavdia practically moved to the apartment, taking care of her grandson as if her mother was unable. "You'll pamper this boy too," he rants when Elena took Max on her lap crying. "Let it cry, it strengthens the lungs." For 3 years, Elena fought alone. He tried to make Dennis see that their mother was destroying the marriage, but he just smiled, shaped. After all, the mother cooked, cleaned, took care of her son, while his wife worked and played the math. The fuse came when Max turned 4. Elena received a promotion and a bonus enough for a family trip to Turkey. He reserved everything, dreaming of those days together, until Dennis released the bomb. "I go alone. I need a while, far from everything. Far from family, work, problems." Elena was paralyzed. He had spent his sweaty money in the passage, and her husband planned to have fun while she was following the exhaustive routine. "And we?" he asked, his voice embargoed. "Max gets grandma, she loves, and you keep working. Your holiday period hasn't even started." Dennis boarded on Monday morning. On the same day, Klavdia took Max to the farm, justifying that fresh air and grandmother's care were essential. Elena was alone in the empty apartment, rolling in her head how her life had turned into that nightmare. In the first 3 days, he tried to call his son unsuccessfully. Klavdia always had an excuse: his sleeping, joking, busy. When Elena appeared in the farm, she was received with a cold look. "Why came?" "Max is adapting to the routine. No need to disturb with constant visits." "I want to take my son home," said Elena firmly. "As long as Dennis doesn't come back, he stays with me." He was the one who decided. It was then that Elena understood, she was entangled in a trap. Her husband traveled at her expense, her mother-in-law kept her son hostage, and she should continue to be silent, working, hoping someone, one day, to return the right to be happy. The next day Dennis turned on, a light, relaxed voice, telling about beaches, drinks and tours, without even asking how things were at home. "Mom said Max is loving the farm," he said distractingly. "Maybe you should also relax. Going out with friends." "I want my son at home," caught Elena. "Don't start with dramas. Mother knows what's best for him," Dennis said. "By the way, tomorrow I'll dive. Here the weather is great." That was the drop of water. Something inside Elena broke forever. She realized that it was not worth fighting for those who did not value their sacrifice. He spent the whole week outlining a plan. On Friday, when Dennis should come back, he took the day and went to the farm. Klavdia received her with the usual air of superiority. "Again here?" Max is helping me weed the potatoes. Don't disturb the boy's work. Elena found her son in the backyard, a 4-year-old boy, dirty, exhausted, digging with a little toy bitch. Seeing her, she ran thrilled. Mom, Grandma said that when Dad comes back, we will live here forever. Elena's heart froze. She took Max on her lap and walked to the house. Klavdia was on the porch, pleased. See how he adapted. What big city, if there is peace here? Add Max's things, said Elena, Serena. We're leaving. No one goes nowhere. Dennis made it clear that he is with me until he returned. Dennis can say whatever you want. I decide is me. Max is my son. The mother-in-law burned fury, but Elena no longer heard. He collected the boy's things, put him in the car and left. At home, he acted with a determination that she didn't even know herself. He exchanged the locks, removed all the money from the accounts that were on his behalf, kept the important documents and waited. Dennis arrived on Sunday night, tanned, smiling until he tried to open the door. The key did not serve. He hit, shouted, demanded entrance. Elena opened only the current. What clowning is this? Open soon, he shouted. Hello, dear. Happy holidays. Stop that, Elena. Open this door. No need to scream. Max is sleeping. She paused. How are things in the farm? Much service. Dennis paled, realizing that the game had turned. Elena smiled and took her cell phone. At that moment, Klavdia called. Elena activated the Vivi. Ah, my daughter-in-law, Dennis is here in the farm, working non-stop. The plantations, the fence, and Max loves to help. Is it? Answered Elena, pretending to surprise. I thought he had already come back. No, we still have a lot to do. Boy needs to learn to work. I understood. Elena turned to Dennis, pale like a ghost. Well, then. He took the sun well, the sea. Now you can get a place to live. Dennis tried to explain herself, promise changes, beg. Elena heard everything in silence, then closed the door. Klavdia kept calling, demanding answers, but she didn't answer anymore. The next day Elena entered the divorce. The process was fast. Elena had all the apartment documents inherited from her grandmother even before the wedding. Proof of income and witnesses who attested to be her, and only she, who had raised her son. Dennis tried to dispute alimony, but his gains were irregular, unstable, while Elena earned 3 times more. Klavdia Georgievna attended the hearings, armed dramatic scenes, required visits with her grandson, but the law was on her mother's side. 2 years passed. Elena received another promotion and moved with Maxim to a new apartment in a noble neighborhood. The boy attended one of the best schools in town, practiced sports, learned music. From his father, he barely remembered. It was then that Andrei entered his lives. Elena's co-worker, he treated Maxim as if it were his own son. Dennis sometimes tried to regain what he had lost, but Elena was uncompromising. Allowed him to see his son. Those in the days stipulated by the judge, always in the presence of a psychologist, a measure that became mandatory after he found that Dennis took the 4-year-old boy to bars, introducing him to his new companions as an accessory of his nights. Klavdia Georgievna moved 2 lawsuits trying to force meetings with her grandson, but lost both. Her own recordings where she defamed Elena, calling her wanton and negligent mother to convince neighbors to witness against her, were used as proof of her bad faith. 3 years later, Elena married Andrei. Maxim called him daddy without hesitation, and the boy's happiness was genuine. At the wedding were present friends, colleagues, Elena's parents, people who had supported her at the darkest moments. Dennis, at that point, lived in a pension room, surviving from nozzles, and saw his son once a month, under supervision of social services. Klavdia Georgievna had sold her family's dacha to try to pay off her son's debts, but money evaporated fast. Until, one day Elena found him in the supermarket. Klavdia Georgievna was aged, tired. Stopped by the toy shelf, he looked at items he couldn't buy for his grandson he barely knew. Lena. He called. We can talk. What? Elena replied cold, held Maxim's hand, then Seven, who didn't even recognize her. Ah, Maxim, Klavdia Georgievna sighed, her eyes damp. I miss my grandson. I should have thought of it before, caught Elena. When he decided that he knew better than me what was good for my son. Klavdia Georgievna looked at the boy, who hid behind her mother's leg, and understood, she had lost that bond forever. Tears ran down his face, but Elena didn't feel mercy. He remembered each humiliation, every attempt to steal his son, every manipulation. Come on, Maxim, he said dryly. Dad Andrei is waiting for us at home. And if they went, leaving Klavdia Georgievna alone among toy corridors she could never offer to her grandson. Today, at 32, Elena commands a department in a multinational. Your child, excellent student and promising tennis player, grows surrounded by affection. His marriage to Andrei is solid, a man who respects her and never allows third parties to interfere with his family. Sometimes it receives messages from Dennis, requests for money, lemurias, pathetic attempts at commotion. Elena reads them with almost clinical distance, excludes without responding. The man who loved one day ceased to exist for her. Maxim knows, just right for his age, the story of his parents. You know you have a biological father who failed to be a real father. And who has Andrei, the man who chose them, who became a family. Elena often reflects on how her life has changed since the day she decided no longer tolerate disrespect. It does not allow anyone to control it, it does not give up on itself for those who do not deserve it, it does not fear making difficult decisions. That woman who, 3 years earlier, was crying alone in an empty apartment while her husband spent her money and her mother-in-law wore her son as a bargaining chip, this woman no longer exists. Instead is a strong, independent woman who knows her value and does not allow them to treat her as a second-class citizen.